Hello, we're Scott and Mary Flanders from Nordhavn 46 Egret. We're here to tell you about Egret's travels in 9.5 years of full-time live aboard and our recent circumnavigation. We arrived in New Zealand after a 1,100-mile passage from Tonga, and it had been one of our goals for a long time. Basically, there were two goals. It was Ushuaia, Argentina, and then New Zealand. And we hadn't really thought beyond that, quite honestly. And we stayed 3 months in North Island. We bought a car. We decided to stay for a full year, which are allowed. In fact, we ended up staying 14 months. And then we'd read so much about South Island. So we left in company with DuPage, this 55-foot Nordhavn. We went around the top and down the west coast. It was a very, very calm weather affair. We caught the tides perfectly going down. No spray on the glass. We were rocketing along, rocketing for us. And we went to Nelson, which is at the top of South Island. And we've fallen in love with the place. What's ironic is a lot of the sailors, eventually cruisers have to wash ashore. And a lot of them, particularly the high latitude cruisers, are choosing Nelson as their place. So now we have a bunch of friends in Nelson that have really gone long distance, particularly the high latitude guys. And we share a common bond. And surprisingly, we don't talk so much about boats as people. And we've met, and that's a real big part of what we do. So while there, we decided to spend the winter in Stewart Island, which is a small island south of South Island. And it's a very, very rugged place in the world. It reminded us of Chile. We spent the winter there. We were there 4 months. In fact, the weather was bad enough, we got within 24 hours of getting there, and we pulled in a port because real weather was coming. We spent 19 days waiting to go one more day. But anyhow, we got there, and we spent the winter. When the weather was good, we moved. When it wasn't, we tucked in with a couple shorelines. And it was one of those another magical times that we'll never forget. And then from there, we made a decision, because Tasmania is very similar. And that's when we really committed to a circumnavigation. And I must say, it was never a goal, something we never dreamed about, nothing. It just sort of evolved. And we crossed from South Island to Tasmania. It was not the most violent weather we were in, but it was a pretty tough trip. It took us 9 days, and 7 of the 9 days we got killed. But like all things, it comes to an end. And we got there, the sun was shining, it was calm, and it was great. We spent 2 months there. The normal route in Australia is to go up around the east coast, around the top, but the pirates have basically shut off the normal option of going through the Red Sea. And there's a little known fact that during the summers, the highs move south. And from the end of February through March, and sometimes in early April, you get easterly winds, and normally it's pretty tough westerlies coming across the south of Australia. So we left the west coast of Tasmania, rode the southerlies up to the mainland, rode the easterlies across. It was like calm. The friends of ours on a sailboat had 70 knots when they did it, and we did it, we had less than 10. And then we got the Fremantle, hired a van. We slept in a van like hippies for a little over 2 months, did 22,000 kilometers exploring Australia. And that's a wonderful country, and the people are really, really nice. And then from there was that long push we talked about to Mauritius, then to the French island of Reunion, which is only an overnighter away. From there, south of Madagascar to Richards Bay, South Africa, around the Cape of Good Hope, which is our 5th of the 5 Great Southern Ocean Capes. And then up to Cape Town, from Cape Town to Namibia, which is the country just north of South Africa on the west coast. And that's another magical place. In fact, it's a place we hope to go back someday, perhaps by plane, not necessarily by boat. From there to St. Helena. It's an island in the middle of the Pacific. You're about 1,600 miles from Brazil and about 1,200 miles from Africa. It's where they sent Napoleon on his second exile. And it's an emerald surrounded by bronze. And the bronze is the barren coast, and the emerald is the mountains in the city, or in the center. From there, 700 miles north to Ascension Island, which is a volcanic island. From there to the Canary Islands, and there we finished our circumnavigation. That took 1,596 days, which is 4.5 years. But something we should say here is circumnavigating was never our goal. And quite honestly, living aboard long term was more important to us than the miles or the circumnavigation. Circumnavigation was actually less than half the time we've lived aboard. We've got quite a few years to go. And you should know that if you don't circumnavigate or even cross an ocean, it kind of doesn't matter. What really matters is you get on the water, stay on the water, and just be good neighbors to your fellow cruisers. And the long-time cruisers will tell you the same thing. So we happen to have done it. It was a lot of fun, made us happy. But now we can go back to the Med and we have no schedule, no nothing. We'll stay there 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is we want. Go to Scandinavia for 2 years, 3 years, whatever we want. And then probably recross the Atlantic back to Nova Scotia. And actually we plan to go to Iceland, then to Greenland, then to Newfoundland, back to Nova Scotia, back to Maine. Then perhaps we'll cruise and scare other cruisers as we totter up and down the intercoastal in the Bahamas and stuff. And but we'll still live aboard. As a lifestyle, Mary and I have just come to really love this. And there's a difference traveling by boat than versus a fly-in traveler. Anybody that lives on or near the water, particularly island folks, water is a big part of their lives. And believe it or not, they know who you are. And they know the difference between you and a fly-in people. They know the difference between you and charter people. So they'll watch you and they'll see you come to shore in a dinghy, and all of a sudden you're at a shoreside restaurant, things change just subtly, doors open, you're invited to people's homes and all of this. It's very different than fly-in folks. So we can literally say it's a life-changing experience. Do we have any plans for the future? Yeah, of course, but it's all evolved around boating. If there was something else that we feel that would make us happier, we'd do it. But there just isn't. I mean, this is really, really good. One of the design features of all the Nordhavns, and our boat, of course, is the Portuguese bridge. But we own a small boat building company, so we do know something about boat building. And design is very, very important, and it's free to every buyer. They don't pay for the design. But one of the times we had the most water on our deck ever in our travels was during sea trials in Palm Beach Inlet in Florida. I was running the boat, and there was a technician down below looking at the stabilizer pressure. And it was very choppy. The waves were stood up, and they were very tight and close together. And I purposely charged up a wave, chopped the throttle, dipped the bow, and then hit the throttle again and drove it through a wave to see what would happen. And what happened was the water was perhaps solid water, 2 feet over the bow rail, and just washed over the deck, hit the Portuguese bridge, laid a solid layer of water on the pilot house glass that was what I call aquarium glass. It was quite thick. You'd almost see fish swimming through it. And then in just a nanosecond, it was gone. And then you start looking at the design, and the bulwarks, for example, which is the height between the foredeck and where the rails sit, is quite low. And the rails are what keep you in a boat. But the foredeck doesn't allow water weight to load the boat, make it bow steer, which could put you in a broach situation. And that water was shed within seconds. There's large freeing ports down both sides, and the water that came over the Portuguese bridge and laid on the glass was gone in just seconds. So within, let's just say 20 seconds, the deck was shed of any water, as was the decks. And what's so dangerous in boats is if you can get the glass punched out. If you can keep the water out of the boat, you may not be comfortable, but your ultimate safety is secure. And if you have substandard glass or glass where water can get a purchase, it could potentially be a problem. And if you look at the way the brow comes off the top of the boat, that's like the eyebrow, if you will, over the glass. And then the Portuguese bridge, there's no angle a large breaking wave can get at the pilot house glass. It just can't happen. So it's either going to hit the fly bridge, or in our case a fly bridge, or hit the brow and hit the Portuguese bridge. And in that case, that water is shed immediately and you're ready for the next wave. Mary and I are just plain folks. She was a physical therapist and I was in the boat parts business. We started just like anyone watching this film. We started in baby steps. We took it easy. We learned and just went from there, and here we are now in the Canary Islands. There's no magic to it. But the most important thing is you work on this together. And if either the husband or the wife has any fears, you just talk about it. Just be honest with each other, because when you're at sea, all you have is each other. So work on it together, and then dream together, and then pretty soon this whole package comes together, and you put it to practice as you go out, and go out in weather that's not quite comfortable for you, and both of you run the boat, run up sea, down sea, just see what happens, come back in, talk about it, and you'll be surprised how fast you learn, and you'll absorb it without even knowing it. And a year into your cruising, you'll be so far advanced from where you started, and you don't even know it. And then things just become easier and easier and easier. If there's any single thing we said today that's important, that's the most important thing. You work together, but it's not magic. There's thousands of us. In fact, one of the marine writers wrote, there's about 6,000 people right now at any one time circumnavigating the world. Now, some take 15 years, some take a very short time. But in any case, there's roughly 6,000 and tens and tens and tens of thousands more coastal cruising. And we all started the same way. So don't think we're special, because we're not. We're no more special than you are. We just had more time at it, that's all. When Mary and I started, it was a very large leap of faith. I mean, the question we all had was, how much is enough? In any case, we did it. It was a large leap of faith, and it was not a mistake in our case. So we based that on years of magazine articles, and at the time, a singular cruising blog that we were following. So we've taken it upon ourselves to try and educate people. So if they really wish to do this, we give them all the information, and then they can make it a very informed choice. So we started a cruising blog in 2006 when we made the decision to leave Turkey and head for Cape Horn. Every mile of the way is documented in detail. We've taken pictures along the way. So what I suggest you do is just get like a National Geographic map or a high-quality map of the world. Follow Egret's voyage around the world. And then at any time, geographically, any place you may want to go that we've gone, just look it up, look at the date, and then you can have the at-sea conditions and everything at sea and during wherever it was you'd like to go, and you can follow it. It's and there's a lot of inspiration in there, there's a lot of technical information in there. So just take the time to read it if you're interested in cruising, particularly long-distance cruising. It's all there for everyone, and it's free. It's on the Nordhavn.com site, and just click on Voyage of Egret.